Hey everyone, really excited to do this little presentation on hemp for my friends and people who are just interested in learning more about hemp and the whole movement that's happening right now. I'm going to have my good friend Jonah Kai here on in a minute. I'm just going to go through some slides and um, share a little bit of what I've done as research over the last 2.5 years. So there's so many incredible uses for hemp. I really believe that this plant can save humanity. So that's why I've called it this presentation, Hemp for Humanity. I feel like we have a lot of problems in our society and so many of them could be solved with this one plant. So pretty incredible. We have this plant that's got amazing amount of uses. So we have textiles, paper, building materials, body care, food. I actually make fresh hemp milk every morning out of hemp hearts or hemp seed hearts. And it's amazing high protein milk. You can even do industrial products like fuel and paints. And it's an amazing plant that can be grown super fast. In 6 months, it can create more wood than 10 years of growing a forest. And yeah, it says 4 times what an average forest can yield in 1 year, and requires no chemicals, pesticides, or herbicides. So it actually cleans the soil. Just so many things. And then the big thing, what we're going to eventually get to, is the medicinal uses. So we'll get into that. But you know, there's so many ways that this could help our humanity. Now that we have ended prohibition of hemp, it's federally legal, if you hadn't known that, in the USA as of January 2019. So, you know, as the US comes on board with legalities, I think the whole world's going to start to notice. It could really help with malnutrition and feed world because it's such a high protein plant. It could end our dependence on fossil fuels. It could reverse climate change because it actually breathes, is a carbon negative plant and helps with bringing carbon dioxide and store carbon. Restores our planet's soils. It actually helps clean the soil and brings out the negative parts of it, and then solves the opioid epidemic and prevent many diseases, including cancer. So it has been shown to really help with pain and help people get off of medications that have horrible side effects. So we could also get into that in a minute. But yeah, as I said, hemp breathes in 4 times the carbon dioxide of trees, and now it's legal. And hempcrete is one of my favorite uses for textiles, as it's just hemp, lime, and water, and you create this amazing breathable walls for building homes. And it's a super energy efficient, naturally non-toxic. It can last for hundreds of years, and it's flame, water, and pest resistant, and it's carbon negative on top of all that. So incredible use. Just a quick foray into the uses of, or the history of hemp. It's been around since humans have been around. Basically, they've found it way back 8,000 BC, and early part of the U.S. It was actually ordered by law to grow hemp in the U.S. And this person could even be sentenced to jail if they weren't growing hemp in their land. So hemp fiber was important to the young republics, that farmers could compel patriotic duty to grow it, and they even were allowed to pay taxes with it. George Washington grew hemp. Thomas Jefferson bred improved hemp varieties. Just a huge part of our history. One of my favorite stories from history is the first Model T Ford was built out of hemp plastic, polymer made out of hemp fibers and fueled by hemp. And a lot of people don't believe me in tell this story, but we'll watch a quick video here, and pretty amazing what was possible with hemp plastic back then.
Amongst the thousands of products made from hemp, one of the most extraordinary is Henry Ford's plastic car. Built in 1941, It contained cellulose fibers derived from hemp, sisal, and wheat straw. The plastic was lighter than steel, yet could withstand 10 times the impact without denting.
So I love that video, just showing how backwards we went going into steel and the whole auto body industry and everything. I don't know. It's pretty funny, but there's so much that could be solved by that. Let's get to the next slide here. So then prohibition happened. 1937 basically was when they did the Tax Act, and it was, you know, I don't want to get into the whole conspiracies, but there's definitely a few industries that have been really benefited by the prohibition of hemp, namely the oil industry, as well as steel and paper and cotton, all those. So hemp could replace all of those. So it was seen as a threat, and basically, you know, they actually lied and said they can't tell the difference between hemp and marijuana, but it's pretty obvious. And actually, marijuana can't be hidden in a crop of hemp because the pollination would ruin the marijuana plant. So anyways, it was made illegal, and it's been illegal until this year. And there is some confusion around the difference between hemp and marijuana. So just to clear that up, it's all known as cannabis, and hemp is just bred. It's a different species that's bred with very low THC. Federally, it has to be less than 0.3% to be legal, and it's hemp, and generally higher in CBD and other cannabinoids. And marijuana is generally lower in CBD and has high THC, which is the psychoactive component that often gets you high. So we have this whole endocannabinoid system in our body. It was really discovered only in the late 80s, and still, you know, pretty new on the medical scene. I think only about 20% of medical schools are teaching this whole system in the body, but it's incredible. It's found receptors all throughout the body, brain, organs, and immune system, and it performs so many different tasks, but the goal is always the same. It's homeostasis, or balance. So it creates balance and stable internal environment in your body. They're found, again, at many of the intersections between the various systems, so they communicate between all the different systems. So it's often known as a mothering system that helps all the different systems of the body, you know, create homeostasis. And they can find decreasing the release of activators and sensitizers from injured tissue. And it also stabilizes nerve cells, and even has been shown to be neuroregenerative, and also helping to release pro-inflammatory substances. So preventing the release, of pro-inflammatory substances. So these different mechanisms, all 3 different types of cells, for the purpose of minimizing the pain and damage caused by injury. And it's just incredible how many uses they've found so far. Again, there's receptors all over. These are just 2 of the main receptors, CB1 and CB2. And again, you can see all the different uses that it has in the body. So cannabinoids are the different components of the plant. There's over 500 chemical components in the plant of hemp, and we have a lot of different uses for CBD, and that's been a lot of research. But CBG is one of the newer ones on the research market, and they're showing really cool results with that. But you know, as this industry evolves, I think there's just going to be shown that really all of them together are beneficial, and you know, they create the entourage effect. There's been a whole bunch of studies that have shown that cannabinoids are actually work synergistically to create an effect that's way better than the isolated compounds. So that's one thing I find is really important to look for if you're looking in a product, is want to have a full spectrum extract, and you want to make sure that the extract is from the hemp plant. So yeah, the therapeutic benefit is much increased by the entourage effect. So basically, I'm going to go back into my screen here and stop the share, bring back my friend Jonah. And, you know, we're not trying to promote any certain products here. I just want this to be a quick educational video for some of my friends and colleagues that are interested in this industry, and to clarify a lot of misconceptions out there that, you know, there's just a lot of confusion. So I just felt like making this quick video on educating people. And so Jonah was one of my friends that actually brought my attention to the industry, and you know, has been an incredible mentor as we've gone on this journey for the last 2.5 years, just learning about the whole endocannabinoid system and the different ways that, you know, we can find products that really help us. But I just want to hear from Jonah and let him tell you, basically the first part is just how you found hemp and how it helped you at the beginning.
Yeah, well, first of all, that was really cool to watch. I always love learning from you, Alok, because every time you have a slide presentation, I'm like, wow, cool, I didn't know that. So as you were talking, I was kind of like leaning in to read more closely. So thank you for all of your awesome research.
Sure.
One thing real quick I learned just last night was that we actually have CBD or endocannabinoid receptors in every cell and in every part of tissue in the body. So I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah.
I found it by accident because I became really sick with Crohn's disease in 2005. Been really, really struggling to battle, to fight for my life since 2005, you know. And if you're not familiar with Crohn's disease, it's an autoimmune disorder where you have holes in your intestines and protein molecules leak into the bloodstream, and then your immune system attacks it because that's not where food is supposed to be. So you literally become allergic to food, and your immune system continues to attack itself, and it can be a very deadly disease. I have friends who have died from it, and I nearly died from it a few times. Eventually, it can lead to severe malnutrition, severe insomnia, which drastically affects your hormones, your brain chemistry. It can actually begin to atrophy your brain, and eventually lead to, I don't know how to call it, but brain disorders later on in life, such as Alzheimer's and things like that. So I started looking up online because doctors didn't really know how to fix me other than surgery, and I really didn't want to go that route. You know, I didn't find enough compelling evidence that that was a safe route to me. So somehow I found on YouTube that cannabis was really good for Crohn's disease. So I started trying different forms. I tried pure cannabis oil, and I just don't like the way that THC makes me feel. I found out that it actually gives me seizures, extreme anxiety, and through experimentation, the amounts that I needed of straight marijuana-derived cannabis oil would get me so high that I would be too high to function before I ever noticed any health benefits. So then I found another video through later research about the benefits of juicing raw cannabis, which if the plant is not yet dried and there's no heat exposure, then the THC is not active. So I started experimenting with that, but it became so difficult to obtain. You know, it's really hard to find enough to keep yourself going if you don't have room for your own farm. First of all, it's extremely time consuming, extremely expensive. And even if you do obtain it, it's highly likely that it's going to have tons of chemical fertilizers, pesticides, herbicides, toxins, that sort of thing, just because marijuana in general is usually grown competitively for high amounts of THC as opposed to CBD, which we get more of in the hemp plant. So I literally spent thousands of dollars researching and experimenting with different brands, both medical and underground, as well, from dispensaries. And I came across this one that got me extremely drastic results, and that was because it was a liposomal formula, which, without getting too far into that, it's essentially when the molecules of CBD are shrunken down and encased inside of a tiny little fat molecule so that it protects the CBD and, you know, the beneficial constituents of the plant from your digestive process, so that it can get right into the bloodstream and then carry directly to the receptors where it does its magic. So after experimenting with different kinds, I found one in particular that was really helpful for putting my Crohn's disease into remission. So there was a point in my life about, you know, two and a half years ago where I was bedridden for 4 months, and I was so sick that I didn't want to live anymore. And I was thinking, okay, this is the end of me. And within just about 4 days of trying this particular form of CBD, I was no longer bedridden. My depression and anxiety was literally melted away. I mean, I felt it within 15 minutes. I was just like, huh, okay. And I started questioning, is this the placebo effect? And the more I learned about it, the more I found out that actually, no, it's not the placebo. There's a lot of science behind it. And within a week, I was no longer bleeding. I used to bleed every day when I went to the bathroom. And it's been over 2 years now, and I've been in remission. So it's really profound. And it made me so passionate about it. I wanted to learn more. Like, how is it doing this? Like, why? And as you shared before, there's so many medical benefits of when you feed your endocannabinoid system. And isn't it interesting that our bodies have more receptors for cannabinoids than for any other chemical or substance known to humanity?
Mm-hmm.
Why would that be?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's because we're supposed to consume this stuff, or maybe our ancestors consumed this stuff on a frequent basis. And due to the fact that it's been essentially manipulated out of our culture by the government for the past 3 generations, humanity has really lost its health potential. And now that it's starting to become legalized and socially acceptable due to positive propaganda, people are starting to learn, oh, wouldn't you know, now that it's acceptable socially, there's also all these health benefits. But actually, a lot of these health benefits were documented in ancient texts as far back as ancient China. I can't remember what year, but there's the very first ever herbal book to be documented in specific plants talks about all these medicinal plants and how hemp in general is like the master healer. So, you know, when I started learning about how mammals and pretty much every land creature has these CBD receptors, it just makes you question, like, why would that be? You know, so it's a good thing to look up. It's fun to research.
Yeah, I love your story. And, you know, over the last 2.5 years, I've been working with, you know, so many different clients. I'm a massage therapist and teach a lot of retreats and workshops, and, you know, just sharing it as I do when people have issues. I've just seen incredible results with a lot of my clients. And so, yeah, really excited about the potential and the future of this. I mean, I think it's just at the very seed stage. And yeah, just to leave people with some recommendations on how to really shop around for the best products. The main things I found are, first, finding a company that you can trust, you know, that has a good leadership, that has, you know, someone who's in charge, that has good integrity, as well as, you know, finding the product that really has a certificate of analysis, that's certified organic, that is a full spectrum. You know, I even think that it's really important to have the terpenes and everything in there, and as much as of the plant as you can. What about you, Jonah? Anything else that you'd say to look for, and if there, you know, people are interested in trying this product?
Yeah, it's a really good question, because as I was mentioning, I've spent a lot of money trying different brands from local growers as well as medical dispensaries. And, you know, honestly, it was a waste of thousands of dollars, hundreds of hours of research. And I found that a lot of stuff out there on the market is full of crap, to be honest. I mean,
Yeah.
Some CBD is better than no CBD, but not all hemp oils and CBDs are created equal. A lot of them have extra fillers that are unnecessary. Most of them are in a carrier oil, such as either avocado oil, olive oil, or coconut oil or MCT oil. And if you have a product that is in a carrier oil like that, regardless of the other fillers and other additives that might be in there, you're only able to absorb maybe 6 to 10%, you know, and that's being generous, of that actual medicine. The rest of it gets excreted out because your cells can't actually absorb it. In fact, it's that way for most vitamins and nutrients. Your body can only absorb so much. So one thing I think is really important to find is, at minimum, you want to make sure that your product is liposomal. And all that means is that the CBD or the cannabinoids are encased in a tiny little organic fat molecule called a phospholipid, and that protects it from the digestive process. So it's kind of like a little nanobot in a way. It's not electronic in any way, but it just is able to evade the digestive process and get immediately into your bloodstream. You also want to make sure that you're looking for, as Alok said, third-party testing, which we call the Certificate of Analysis. You might also see COA, Certificate of Analysis. And you want to make sure that that certificate is third-party, so that there's no financial incentive to lie about whatever's in the product. I think also you want to make sure that the quality of the ingredients is not just hyped up through marketing, but you're actually able to resource, where is this specific ingredient in there, and is this particular ingredient absolutely necessary, and what is its function? You know, a lot of people will have a CBD oil that they say, like, it feels relaxing to them. And I've researched the ingredients of those different brands. I won't mention any because I don't want to disrespect any companies. But a lot of them, you find that, oh, it's not actually the CBD that's relaxing them, because that's just in a carrier oil. Therefore, you're peeing most of it out. But there's all these like sleepy time herbs and adaptogens. And it's like, okay, it might not actually be the CBD that's relaxing you. It might be the adaptogens.
Mm.
And so you want to make sure that there's minimal ingredients, that each one is pure, and it actually has a very specific bioavailable function, meaning that your cells can utilize every single component. So rather than only absorbing, 6 to 10% on average of the actual medicine and peeing out 90%, which is essentially wasting your money, you want to make sure that it has roughly 97 to 100% bioavailability. That's really rare, but you can find it. I know of one in particular. I know Alok does as well. We both use the same one. And you want to make sure that you're getting the proof, the third-party testing and the data that proves the bioavailability. There's companies that have brain scans out there. So if you can find brain scans and not just marketing hype that talks about the benefits, you want to actually find, like, okay, does this actually work? Is this worth my dollar? And am I peeing my dollars away, or am I actually able to absorb it and actually save money in the long term?
Yeah, that's so important. I think over the years, I've just done more and more research, and it's sad in a way that the market's going crazy now. I saw they're putting CBD in Oreo cookies, and it's just become this whole thing where people think, oh, I can put it in anything and charge more, and that's not doing anything. And it's sad because it's giving CBD a bad rap. And I think again, not to just focus on CBD, it's a full plant extract. There's so many other components in the plant that are very important. And to find the nano-enhanced or liposomal delivery is very important, because it isn't cheap. And if you're spending that much money, you want to make sure that it's getting into your bloodstream as quickly as possible. So I think that's one of the most important things that you can really look for, as well as the quality of the product and all the ingredients. And so do your own research out there. Jonah, I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with us today. And
yeah, I'm honored to be here. Thank you.
I hope whoever's watching this, learned a little bit today. I'm happy, as well as Jonah, to answer any questions. So if you want to find out about what product that we're using, please get in touch with us. But yeah, I really want this to be an educational video out there because of all the misinformation and hype out there, that I want to create some clarity, and hopefully this helped a little bit. So yeah, have a great night, evening, day, wherever you are. Enjoy.
Thanks
so much.